Do you think our surroundings tell a story? I believe that sometimes the most powerful stories are the ones that no one says out loud. As renowned director Hidetaka Miyazaki writes in the opening words of the Elden Ring,
"The fallen leaves tell a story."
I hope this single quote will resonate with the people who are familiar with the design language of From Software video games. With the first seconds of you open the door to the lands between, and with your first steps into the Limgrave, the first thing you see is this giant glowing magical tree called Earth Tree. It gives this imminent direction and the purpose on our exploration in this game. Throughout our experience, we constantly witnessing the ruins and wastelands of once a great empire ruled by Queen Marika. Now is just a hollow world at the verge of dying, is quite a silent narrator that unfolds the previous events and their results. In narratology, this cause and effect relationship between these sequential events, known as causality, which most people say is a key aspect for a good narrative. And I think embedding causality into video game environments deserves high praise in any scope. Elden Ring tells a story which holds a lore about centuries long of struggles, great battles, plagues. This may be an example for bigger scope of environmental storytelling. But even in the smaller scopes, environmental storytelling can carry a narrative such as Unpacking. Unpacking in this frame is a really unique example. At first glance, Unpacking's main mechanic is about opening card boxes, organizing objects that you move into a new place every level. Designers use this really basic interaction to their advance, and they use this digital environment for telling a genuine story through the environment, and I mean it's a really strong one. You witness the whole childhood, teenage years, and the adult years of our protagonist by basically just witnessing the movement from house to house. And within this movement action, you can see our protagonist's hobbies, favorite toys, and the evolution of our character by the many years caves in. Unpacking is one of the few games that I played that uses environmental storytelling as their main narration layer. And I mean, they build on this premise really well. With that narration, you really start to feel this same feeling, this uncertainty about your life, the feeling that you feel at the crossroads of your life. The excitement that comes from the curiosity about future, the hollow feeling of the things that you leave behind, or the pain of the things that you lost on the way. Unpacking conveys a story that's really not a complex, but it executes it really well. As I don't want to spoil too much, I am going to finish my words about Unpacking and move on to the main subject. I hope at this point you noticed one specific aspect of environmental storytelling. It is visually dominated practice. Human perception is interesting, and I acknowledge the dominance of the visual perception of human. I understand it, and it's not surprising actually to any director to use more visuals to tell a story. You can also imagine that our visual vocabulary is much deeper than our auditory vocabulary. Our intuition about sound is highly primitive when you compare it to the visuals, because all the adjectives that I use to describe a sound basically a visual. But at this point, I know one crucial thing about the audiovisual relationship. You can close your eyes, but not your ears. I may be biased. I'm a sound guy, and this video is about auditory domain of the environmental storytelling. And I want to explore that how sound is crafted so it can be utilized for environmental storytelling. With that purpose, I went out and checked for any mediums, cinema, TV series, video games mostly. At some point I feel like I was trying to catch a lightning in a bottle. Even in visuals, it's hard to properly convey a story within the environment, and the sound is much more temporal than it is spatial when you compare to the visuals. A single snapshot is enough to explain a situation in the environment, but in sound, you need time, you need temporal domain. I was feeling unmotivated about searching for a good example for auditory environmental storytelling. Then someday I played this game. This is Return of the Obra Dinn, an adventure puzzle game that developed by a single indie developer, Lucas Pop, in 2018. In the backstory of this game, the ship Obra Dinn, a merchant ship, is missing for 5 years, has reappeared in the coast of England with no surviving crew or passengers. Our player's character's task is to determine every crew members and the passengers' fate, including their names, how they met with their fate, who or what killed them, or if anybody is still alive, where are they? Within the first seconds of the game, player gets on the main deck of Obra Dinn, and we introduced with the main mechanic of the game, Memento Mortem. A mystical pocket watch that travels the investigator into the final moments of any corpse discovered aboard the ship. Interaction is introduced, I think, quite clever way. When our player approaches a remaining of a crew, when you initiate this pocket watch, it triggers two different sequences. One is an audio snippet just before the event. Secondly, a static frozen tableau of the event in 3D environment. To not give any spoilers, I will just cover the first interaction. As we approach the first body remain, we hear this audio snippet.
Captain! Open the door! Kick it in. Lest we break it down and take more than those shells!
You bastards may take exactly what I give you!
At this exact moment, we know who is the captain, who is the crew members, and how the crew member died. The audio keys gives us enough hints to uncover these secrets in the investigation. Which one is captain, which one is the crew members, and we basically hear that the crew members, in anger, knocking the door, demands the captain to go out. We hear another voice behind the door. It says, "You bastards may take exactly what I give you." While the second sequence is about frozen visuals of the event, the temporality of the event and this kind of causality we derive from it comes from audio. It is, in my perspective, a well-done auditory environmental storytelling. Temporal affordances might challenge industry to crafting a soundscape that tells a story, but I wanted to highlight some of the advantages of these practices comparatively. There is a quote that I find interesting. Between stimulus and response, there's a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. For this context, I'm taking this quote not metaphorically, but as literal, to emphasize the importance of the space and the stories that can be told from the space in context. We need more space to tell stories, and I think we storytellers may find new powers on our narratives inside space. Our growth may be bigger, our freedom may better, as we are powerful enough to tell good stories in the space. If we return to the first quote, all those falling leaves in the wind has a story. How do you tell it?